I got the right picture up. We got Death Stranding news. I mixed that up. We got some Death Stranding news. And we got to see the trailer. We got a release date for Death Stranding. We got to see some more information about it. Some more, storyline and everything. Norman Reedus and the Funky Fetus, as some people call it. As I prefer to call it, Eat Standing. Which is a hilarious picture I saw, which is an edit. I have not been excited for this game. I have not been very interested in it. I didn't like the hype that was building up around it just because I didn't think it was justified. I didn't think we knew enough about the game for it to be justified. I watched the trailer. It definitely looks a lot more interesting than I thought it did. But that's actually not what this topic is about. I have another issue with this topic. My problem is, in the original hype for this game, they kept making it sound like you are going to experience some kind of game that you've never experienced before. I have a problem with building hype in that way. If you tell me that playing VR is an experience like you've never experienced before when it comes to playing video games, I get that. When the Wii came out and you played with the motion controls, it was a long time before anybody had played anything like that, if they'd ever played anything like that at all at home, other than the home run machine from Radica. Radica used to make these plug and play machines that were ridiculous, but you would swing a baseball bat. They made this game sound like it was going to be some sort of monumental experience, something beyond a video game. Is sort of how they were describing the hype, like what's going to happen. You never know. It's going to be this amazing thing. It's a video game. It is a video game with a story and characters and controls that you control with a controller. It's a video game. I have a problem with the kind of hype that this game generates, which, like I said, is the idea that you're going to experience something more than a video game. I don't like it. I think it is a design for a letdown. I think that when we talked about this before, and I couldn't find the actual, I couldn't find the video from when we had talked about this. When people were saying, what's Death Stranding going to be? What's it going to be? Oh my God. I kept saying, it's going to be a video game. You're going to pick up a controller and you're going to play the story. I don't understand what people mean when they say, what is Death Stranding? That was a big one. What is Death Stranding even? It's a video game. I don't understand where everybody is getting this experience that it's going to be anything other than a video game. It's going to be a video game. It might be a very, very good game, a very intricate storyline, but ultimately it's going to be a game. I don't like when they turn these games into these life experiences that you're going to have. It gets annoying, and it blinds everybody from what is actually happening. I like this trailer. Half the hype was just people hyping Kojima, which was a great guy. He doesn't try thinking about connections. He comes up with all this stuff, but no one's asking, oh, okay, but why? Oh, yeah. So so basically this whole half of this game could go nowhere, is what you're saying. But yeah, I have a problem with that, because what's going to happen is the game's going to come out. The game's going to be really good. But it's going to be a video game. You're going to play it. People are going to beat it the first day like they always do with these games. People are going to talk about how great the story is. And then they're going to move on to the next game. They're still going to talk about it. It's still going to be a great game. But then they're just going to move on. It's not going to be this life-changing experience other than being a good game. So it just annoys me. I think the problem is that people think it's going to be way more than just a game. That's what I mean. No matter what kind of game it is, at the end of the day, it's just a game. Yeah, and that's what I mean. People act like it's going to be so much more than a video game. No, it's going to be a video game. Don't overhype it in the wrong way, because you're going to be let down because the game can't be anything more than a video game. So you're hyping yourself up and you're setting yourself up for a letdown. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the only things that I'm really excited for other than Animal Crossing. But even then, I know that it's just a video game. It's going to have a super cool story. Hopefully. But it's just a video game. I'm not going to play the game and reevaluate my life. I'm not going to think about how it's so... There you go. Hyping games up to the point where you're supposed to say at the end of the game, this was so much more than a video game. This was so amazing. I'm moved. I'm going to reevaluate my life after playing this game. No, dude, it's a video game. It's got a cool story. It's got cool controls. Like, there you go. That's it. That's what it's supposed to be. It's just so weird to me that companies, I feel like the companies are kind of doing that. People, I think, are the ones really doing it. I think they're the ones that have the expectation that it's going to be so much more, and it's just not. What was it like playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time? Maybe Death Stranding will have that kind. Okay, so Metal Gear Solid. The thing about playing Metal Gear Solid, first of all, Metal Gear Solid was not some moving experience either. No matter how much people want to act like it. The thing with Metal Gear Solid was that it allowed you to do a lot more things than we're kind of used to. The idea that you can kill everybody or CQC them and lock them up and, have what is effectively a pacifist run. There were these things that are normal now, but we kind of hadn't seen back then. I'm not seeing anything in Death Stranding that we haven't seen some version of. What's the thing with the babies? Well, I would assume that the babies are tied, are somehow linked to whatever creatures we're looking for, and they can psychically detect them. This is what I derived from the first time we saw the game. That the babies have something in them that make it easier for them to detect wherever the monsters are. Just because you call it a baby doesn't mean that it's not a monster detector. We saw that in Alien in 1979. They had a thing that beeped when the alien showed up. That was just what the baby was. Yes, there's a little more story to why it's a baby instead of just some sort of a handheld monitor, but it's not a function of a game that we haven't seen before. Thing about Metal Gear Solid is it falls under what I said. Kojima threw a lot out there. And the team asked, "Why does this happen? How does this happen?" And then Streamline had his idea. Yeah, so Lilac. So what ends up happening is by the time you get to the fifth game, the whole story is a giant convoluted mess. When you do that, so hopefully there's not a Death Stranding 2 still stranded or strand harder. I haven't seen the new trailer at this point. It's just let me just see how it turns out. Watch someone play the first hour or two. Yeah, that's another thing that I'm starting to experience a lot more with video games, especially doing the SGB videos. I realize stuff like LA Noire, Heavy Rain especially, I feel like they're more interesting games to watch someone else play than to play for yourself. So I'm wondering if Death Stranding is going to be like that, where, okay, it's a cool game, but it's probably more interesting to watch someone else play it and you just watch the story unfold as opposed to actually interacting with the game yourself. I wonder if that's what it's going to be. And if that's the case, that sucks any innovation right out of the game. Because now you're not experiencing it. Oh, experience a game mechanic system like you've never seen before. But if I'm watching somebody else play it and that makes the game more interesting, that's probably, that all goes out the window. All that being said, the trailer actually does make the game look a lot more interesting than I thought before. Kind of like Doki Doki. Doki Doki Literature Club was a more interesting game to watch people play than it was to play yourself. Because you're kind of using the word play very loosely when you talk about that game. Death Stranding. Son of a bitch. I'm afraid people are just going to be a little too yes man to Kojima. I've heard that before. I've heard that people say that he's this genius, so everything he does turns to gold, even though it's probably not going to. Does it help that games like Death Stranding are looking more and more like big budget movies than games? No, I think that hurts them. I think that when you focus too much on it looking like a movie, it draws away from gameplay. And that's the problem. I don't want it to draw away from the gameplay. Heavy Rain, for as good as the story was in Heavy Rain, ignoring some of the poorly written characters, Heavy Rain looks like a super boring game for me to play. It looks like I would not have a fun time playing Heavy Rain, but I had a blast watching it unfold because it has amazing voice acting and amazing scenes and amazing scenarios. It does everything that a good movie does correctly. But because of that, it sacrifices a lot of the gameplay. And that's why I'm playing video games. I'm playing video games because I want to play the game. If I wanted to just watch a movie, I would just watch a movie. So it worries me that some of these games are focused so much on making a good story and presenting it well that the gameplay would almost get in the way of that. And that's kind of how I feel with the David Cage games, the ones that I've seen so far. It feels like he's got this great story that he wants to tell you, but the gameplay is getting in the way of that. So he has to minimize it. That's why it's all minimized down to QuickTime events. Because they get in the way of the story. That's not a good thing for a video game, though. No, the only thing left for Kojima to do is make their own Death Stranding with Kojima's non-union Mexico. I mean, he does have a good track record in the gaming industry. Yeah, he has a good track record. And I think he's earned the right to say, okay, let's put all of this stuff into a game. But his games haven't been completely flawless, depending on how you look at them. You know, sometimes there are a few too many characters. Sometimes the characters move in too many different directions. Sometimes you have so many characters that you have to drop the importance of some for the sake of others. That's dangerous. That's not something you can do. I mean, you look at Heavy Rain, we lost a character. In the first playthrough that they did, they lost a different character, but you still make it to the end of the game. So you kind of question how much challenge there is. Is there really a challenge, or are you really just trying to get to the end of the game in one particular way, which some would argue hurts the replayability? Because then when you try and replay the game and you get a different story, is it as interesting as the first ending? You know what I mean? It's all kind of questionable. As much as Kojima likes to make long cutscenes, he does bring everything back to gameplay. And that's a good thing, especially with the first Metal Gear Solid. I remembered having a good time playing the game. And then when the storyline cut, which I'd never beat that game, when the storyline cutscenes came up, it was interesting to watch them. And then I knew I was going to get back to the game. Rye, have a good one. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy dinner and enjoy cleaning. Cleaning is always the best. So yeah, Death Stranding looks good. It looks interesting. It might look a little more interesting to watch as opposed to play. My bigger concern is that when all is said and done, it's going to be a video game. It's going to be, I don't know how open world it's going to be. But it's going to just be a video game. And it's weird to say just a video game, but you have to say that when everybody thinks it's going to be so much more than that. And I worry how that's going to affect the game. I mean, let's face it. The game's going to be in the $20, in the $10 or $20 section 3 years from now, if even that. I despise used games that I might buy the Cage games because I don't know how much I'll play them. I'm still trying to muster the interest to get back to Detroit Become Human. Another similar problem with DS Hype is they were still on the Konami hate. Yeah, I see what you mean. Also heading out. Bye, everyone. Later, Gabby. Have a good one. Thank you for stopping in. On that note, we will change topics here. You see, I David Caged you because you didn't realize the ending was coming up that fast.